This podcast is produced by the Fireside Club of Canada.
Hello, and welcome to Canada as I See It. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. I'd like to thank the chorus for introducing the podcast this week. Thank you, everyone. Today is September 22nd, 2024. And today we're going to talk about standard time. Time flies like a river. Fruit flies like a banana. But every once in a while, you have to stop and take a look at the clicking numbered disc on the wall, or the box on your nightstand that occasionally flashes 12 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 12 o'clock after a power outage. Or look at the electronic rectangle that we all seem to have these days and appreciate the passage of time. Else you get lost and have to search out your old friend, a scientist with long white hair and a penchant for calling Scott great, to help you get back to the future. Standard time in this context, and well, especially in today's world, is anything but. We all take for granted the way that clocks run now. Some may in fact be slaves to the digits that tick by on our phones and wristwatches. Does anyone still wear a wristwatch? I don't know. But there was a time in the 19th and earlier centuries that if it were 8:55 a.m. in York, it may have been 9:16 in Kingston. That's 260 kilometers to the east. Whereas today, we know without thinking that it is the same time in both places. This wasn't some sort of arbitrary choice. Seriously. People actually considered what time it was based on where the sun was in the sky. It was a very scientific, at the time, way of setting your clocks. The problem with this method is that you would get variances from town to town based on what the locals thought the correct time was. The further away you got from certain places, the greater the difference and greater the inaccuracy would be. For example, my daughter lives about, 2,500 kilometers west of me. She's in the mountain time zone, and I'm in the eastern time zone. But if we're on a video call, well, especially when the sun's going down, you really can see the difference. It can be bright and sunny where she is, but I can be in near darkness watching, the stars float by in the sky. In 1876, Sir Sandford Fleming, a Scottish immigrant to Canada, missed a train once while in Ireland. The confusion in the differences between the printed schedule and the time that he thought it was caused him to propose a worldwide standard for time, something that people who were traveling laterally, as opposed to longitudinally, could use to ensure that anyone would never miss another train. Well, at least if they followed the clocks. Other people had proposed similar designs, but only on a regional scale, never for the entire world. The problem? The time discrepancies still existed, but now on a wider scale. Fleming based his plan on what we now know as 180 degrees east or west from what is the prime meridian, an arbitrary line, admittedly, that was marked in 1884 through Greenwich, England. The Earth was marked out by degrees, both east to west and north to south, each amounting to 360. The zones he proposed were each 15 degrees wide, and each zone would be 1 hour different from Greenwich, depending on how many zones away it was. Why 15 degrees? Well, 360 divided by 15 equals, Bueller, 24 hours, the approximate time in a day on Earth. Well, it was and is a grand idea. There aren't many things that you can say are still in use 142 years after they were invented. The issue, through time, has arisen when these 15-degree lines have cut countries, states, or even cities in half. Locations have chosen to pick one side of the line to be on, or the other, so that you don't leave for work at 8 a.m., say, so that you can get there 10 minutes later at 10 a.m., or I guess that would be 10 minutes after 10. Oh, gee. Don't get me started on daylight savings time. I'm sure that Sir Fleming did not consider this to be a positive adjustment to his well-thought-out method of measuring time. Well, I could go on forever about this, but today, well, I just don't have the time. But has that ever stopped me before? No. In March, actually, of 2022, the U.S. Senate passed the Sunshine Protection Act. The intent was that daylight savings time would be made permanent starting in the spring of 2023. And at first, really, it looked as though it might become a reality. The U.S. Senate passed the bill through an expedited process and, well, with unanimous consent. Legislative rarities in this day and age. But the bill wasn't taken up in the House. Members cited higher priorities like a budget deficit and, well, the war in Ukraine. But there was also a growing chorus of criticism about the bill's approach. There are some places in Canada that don't use daylight savings time. The Yukon, most of Saskatchewan, some locations in Quebec, and Southampton Island, and some areas in British Columbia. They stay on standard time all year. The proposal, actually, this bill that was voted on a couple of years ago, is to make daylight savings time the permanent time. The thing is, in Ontario, Ontario wants to wait for Quebec to be on side and New York State, because really, if you don't do something like that, we're right back to where we were before, where it'll be 9 a.m. in Toronto and 10 a.m. in Buffalo and 10:30 in Quebec. No, wait. The half hour, that's only in Newfoundland in Canada. That's, if you don't know about it, that's kind of an in thing. I always learned about that. It was always 8 o'clock in Ontario and 10:30 in Newfoundland. It's a hockey thing, really. Well, again, as I said, I really could go on and on about standard and daylight savings time, which this year, daylight savings time will be happening on it's ending rather, on November 3rd. So you've got 5 weeks to prepare. And hopefully, I don't know that we're going to have any resolution by then, but just to let you know. As I said, I really could go on and on about standard time. There's much more information than I've been able to blather on about this morning, but maybe I can do that another time. If you have any questions or comments about today's podcast or with anything I've said, maybe, like as I said, maybe I'm blowing smoke, right? Or is there something that you would like me to talk about? Please contact me at asiseeit@warpole.ca. Thank you so much for listening, everyone, and I will talk to you again next week. And that's a part of Canada as I see it. It is written and produced by me, James Warpole, and brought to life by the Fireside Chat Club of Canada. Our theme song is Night Owls by Brayden Deal. If you have any questions or comments, please email me at asiseeit@warpole.ca. Join us every Sunday for another episode of Canada as I See It.